All right, let's talk about it. That crazy, all-consuming, world-stopping feeling we call romance. Is it, a fundamental part of our biology, a chemical reaction we just can't control? Or is it all just a big story, a script that society teaches us to act out? Well, that is the big question we are tackling today. So, this whole conversation really kicks off with this pretty provocative claim from a Reddit user over on the Change My View forum. They're basically arguing that the entire concept of romance is something we just made up. And that idea, wow, it challenges everything from fairy tales to our own deepest experiences. It really sets the stage for a fascinating debate.
But hold on, before we get any further, we've got to get on the same page. The whole argument really hangs on this one key term, social construct. It's a phrase you hear thrown around a lot, but what does it actually mean?
Okay, think about it like this. Money, right? A piece of paper isn't really worth anything on its own. But we all agree that it is, and so, boom, it becomes something we can use to buy stuff. That's a social construct. Now, that doesn't mean it's fake. It has very, very real effects on our lives. But its entire existence depends on all of us collectively believing in it. So, with that definition locked in, let's explore the first side of this argument. This is the case for culture. The idea that romance is something we learn, not something we're just born with. So here's the argument from the culture camp. They say that the feelings of trust and intimacy and that deep affection you have for a partner, they're totally real. But they're not really any different from the feelings you might have for a super close friend. The romance part, they argue, is just an extra layer of specific behaviors and expectations that we've all been taught to associate with a romantic partner. And this table here, it lays it all out so clearly. The actions are often just slight little variations of each other. The original Reddit post called these socially constructed bells and whistles. It's the labels we use, like calling it dating instead of just hanging out, and the expectations we add on top, like sex or marriage, that really create the difference. And man, sociologist Eric Brezovovic just hits the nail on the head here. We have to learn how to properly love a mother, a friend, or a partner, right? All the rules, from bringing flowers on a first date, all the way to proposing marriage, they're all learned from the society we grew up in. It's kind of like a performance based on a script we all share. But wait a minute, that can't be the whole story, can it? I mean, what about that undeniable biological pull you feel? And that brings us to the other side of the argument, the really powerful case for our own brain chemistry. From a biological point of view, love isn't just some fuzzy feeling. It's an active, goal-oriented drive. Neuroendocrinologists argue it's a motivation system designed to help us survive and reproduce. And what's really fascinating is that some research suggests this drive is even more powerful than the sex drive alone. I mean, think about it. People rarely harm themselves over a purely sexual rejection, but a romantic one? That can be absolutely devastating. So how does this whole system work? Well, it seems to unfold in 3 distinct stages, and each one is powered by a different cocktail of hormones. First up, you've got lust, which is driven by sex hormones. Then comes attraction, that obsessive can't eat, can't sleep phase, which is fueled by dopamine and norepinephrine. And finally, there's attachment, that secure, long-term bond that's all about oxytocin and vasopressin. And this is a super important point to make, separating that initial spark from the long-term flame. Lust is mostly about physical chemistry, and, well, it can fade pretty fast. Love, on the other hand, is built on a much deeper emotional connection, what you might call compatibility, and it's all aimed at forming a bond that lasts. And get this, that deep, long-term attachment, what scientists call pair bonding, is actually incredibly rare in the animal kingdom. As you can see here, fewer than 5% of all mammalian species do it. This makes the human capacity for romantic love a huge biological anomaly, which suggests it serves a really, really important evolutionary purpose. Okay, so you've got culture on one side and chemistry on the other. But what happens when these two massive forces smash into each other in the complicated, high-pressure world of modern relationships?
Well, here's the problem. That initial flood of attraction hormones, the dopamine, the norepinephrine, it's not built to last. It's an intense, high-energy state that, eventually fades. As Dr. Stosny points out, the biological engine that gets the relationship started eventually runs out of that initial high-octane fuel.
So when that initial high wears off, a lot of couples can fall into what psychologists call a fantasy bond. This is basically where you're just going through the motions. You have the label, maybe you live together, you operate as a couple, but that real, vulnerable, intimate connection, it's been replaced by routine and just the appearance of a relationship. You can really see the difference in practice here. A relationship based on true love, it thrives on openness, honesty, genuine affection. But in a fantasy bond, any feedback is met with anger. Communication just breaks down, and affection becomes a routine, or it might disappear altogether. It's the difference between truly being seen by someone and just being in the same room. So, if feelings fade and routines can kill intimacy, where does that leave us? Is lasting love even possible? This brings us to our final and maybe our most important section, love as something we do. When that initial rush of attraction chemistry starts to fade and the cultural scripts start to feel a little hollow, the one thing that can sustain a relationship is a conscious choice. It's commitment. It's a decision to just keep showing up for your partner and for the relationship, especially when it's not easy. So, what does real commitment actually look like? Well, it's not just a word, it's a whole series of actions. It's when you start saying we instead of I when you talk about the future. It's actively working to meet each other's needs and putting the relationship first in your decisions. As one expert put it, it's being committed to the commitment itself. And this brings us to what might be the biggest takeaway of all. Maybe that whole debate between culture and chemistry is just asking the wrong question. As Dr. Lisa Firestone puts it, love isn't a noun. It's not a static thing you either have or you don't. It's a verb. It's an action. It's something you have to actively work on to keep it alive. So, in the end, whether its roots are deep in our brains or in the societies we build, love's future is in our hands. It's not about waiting around for a feeling to strike or following a script perfectly. It's about the daily choices we make. And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. What loving actions will you choose to take?